Welcome again to our weekly online satsang. We got knocked off the internet just a few minutes ago, and we're still off. Well, okay, now
there we go.
Now we're back. We should be live on Facebook as well. Yeah, it says we are. Let's try it again. Yay. Okay. Go to the new screen above.
Above or below?
Above.
Oh, okay. It looked like this was the button. No, that's the meditation. Okay.
That's it. Okay. Well, that was interesting. And at least one of us has made it here. I don't know why. Sometimes weird things happen with electronics and we're dealing with spiritual energy. We've been dealing with this for the last 15 years. Milan made it. We had Robert Burnside, which was James Burnside, and CJ from the Philippines, and well, More and Rose Flores made it. So we'll just wait a couple minutes and give people a chance to discover where we went. So strange. And Milan says, sending you love. Well, sending love right back. Satsang is a fancy Sanskrit word for spiritual community, really. It means community of truth. But whenever two people or more come together who are on the spiritual journey of awakening and the flowering of the heart, you have a satsang. And we strengthen one another when we join our consciousness and our energy together. So it's really essential to find a spiritual community and be part of it. I don't mean join something formally. The Flowering Heart Satsang includes people from many different teachings, teachers, organizations, belief systems, masters, saints, gurus, avatars, other continents around the world. What we have in common is that we're sharing this journey of awakening. It's good if you, and so it's wonderful, and you'll always be welcome to join us on Mondays. But it's good to find a group somewhere close to you physically where you can join together and meditate together, pray together, share together, and share blessing with one another. It's really easy to do. If you can't find one, make one. The Flowering Heart Blessing, as you may know, is a transmission of divine consciousness, presence, energy that catalyzes awakening and the flowering of the heart in divine union. And it's a free gift from the divine presence, from Source. It's absolutely free. And when you receive this blessing, and you are right now, and you probably have before, you are immediately initiating. The divine said, give it away and tell people they're initiated immediately when they receive this blessing to be able to share it with others. Either directly by touch through the laying on of hands with the consent of the recipient. It's important to have informed consent because this kind of blessing is going to change people's lives. It's going to begin to open the doors of awakening. And even if those doors have already cracked open, it's going to come swinging open when you start receiving this kind of transmission. Or you can send it at a distance through meditation or intention and prayer, and then you don't really have to ask anyone's permission. Just ask the divine to do what that person needs and get out of the way. It's a very lovely thing. Oh. Huh. Okay. Well, hopefully others will discover where we went. I'm going to... Anyway, James, on the other website, which we dropped off of, said, happy to be here. More peace and divine presence shine on my path as I join with this community.
Oh, sweet.
It's very sweet. So hope you find your way to the new screen we opened. Okay. Alrighty then. Well, yeah, keep those loving hearts going. So if you find your way here and you don't enter a comment in the chat like Milan, and we got James from the other stream that dropped, if you'd just give us a like or a love, that would just be awesome, because then we can see that you were here. Or just make a comment like Joanne just did. Hello to you as well. And if you're on Vimeo or LinkedIn or one of the other platforms we're streaming to, you would need to actually say something in the chat like, "Hi, I'm here, it's More." And that brings us delight and Rosé. Okay. Well, what we do is we try to get on the internet first and get the stream stable, and I think we're there now. And then we spend, which we've already done, about 10 minutes in quiet meditation as the music plays, just holding space in the presence, creating an openness to the field of oneness that's generated when we join our hearts together. And then we open it to questions and answers concerning the spiritual journey, awakening, divine union, meditation, reincarnation, whatever is on your heart or your mind and you'd like some clarity, some more insight, please share your questions. And that always moves the divine to inspire us with things to share that strengthen the entire group. So you may think the question or the situation is just what you're experiencing in meditation, what you're experiencing in your path, but as it turns out, our paths are quite parallel. They're not identical, they're all different, but we go through many of the same challenges and ups and downs along the way. So it's great when someone shares, and that's sort of the meat of our discussion during the satsang, is a response to your questions. And every once in a while we'll come up with our own. Then we open it later on. We're sending the Flowering Heart Blessing right now, so you can just be drinking it in. And also join us in sending the blessing by intention to all the other participants in the satsang, those who are with us tonight live, and those who will be watching this video recording over the next week. We have many, many more people that watch these after Monday night between then and the next week because of different schedules and time zones and all of that. So, but please hold that intention with us that the Flowering Heart Blessing is being poured out to all of those who participate live and those who participate through the video recording. Because in spirit there is no distance or separation in time or space. So it's just as if they are with us right now if they tune in tomorrow. And then later on we'll be diving into some very focused, powerful intent blessings, asking for divine interventions in the situations and the concerns that you've brought with you here personally tonight. And we'll conclude with the open eye light meditation at the end. Joanne writes, how important do you feel that diet and exercise are to spiritual growth?
That's funny.
I'm always happy to take a question.
I didn't used to think that there was that much of a connection to it, but as I grow deeper into spirituality, I'm more in tune with exercise and diet and how it makes me feel. And when I'm eating foods that are in alignment with what my body needs to nurture me, it makes my spirit feel better. It makes me feel really good and open. And we've been pretty diligently for the last several years, trying to get in like a 40-minute walk as many days of the week as we can, and just to get some movement going and to be out in nature. And that's a very spiritual exercise as well, just being in nature and looking around, watching the sunset, whatever it may be. But I believe everything should be done with gentleness and kindness. And the more that I grow spiritually, the more gentle and kind I am being with my body in what I put into it and what I get out of it.
I was initially raised a Taoist. And in Taoism, mind and body are one. And spirit and matter are one. And we can talk about matter, we can talk about spirit, but they're just different energetic frequencies of the same God stuff that everything is made of. So I learned at an early age that what we do with our spirits, with our consciousness, dramatically affects the body. And I think a lot of people know that now. But it's equally true that what you do to your body will affect your spirit. So I've been practicing Qigong for 50 years, and I teach it, and I will always teach it and practice Taoist meditation, which really, in the sense of union in Taoism, isn't so much union with the divine as it is in yoga and other traditions I love and practice. But in Taoism, yoga, union means uniting, fusing back together again spirit, soul, and body, or spirit, mind, and body, and bringing that back together yogically and fusing it as one. I mean, that's the goal of the work. Should we achieve it, there's a kind of yogic immortality that Avatar, Mahavatar Babaji of fame in India through Paramahansa Yogananda and the Kriya Yoga lineage, became an immortal yogi. His body became liberated from death because it was so spiritualized by the way he lived. My teacher, a Taoist priest, amazing, enlightened Taoist teacher who was trained in a monastery on a mountain in China, he said that yogic immortality is very hard to achieve now in the current world, because to do it, yogis and priests, recluses, would go way up in the mountains. So they were out of the mind field of the metropolitan areas. There's so many toxic thought forms and mental energies in a metropolitan area that it's very difficult even for a meditation master to attain that kind of purity of body that's required for the body to be transformed into pure energy. So the immortal yogis would leave the metropolitan areas, the cities, civilization, go up in the mountains, so they are away from all the mental toxicity, and then they would eat these very, very pure diets of plants and herbs, and drink dew and from pristine springs up in the mountains. And my master, Master Lu, said it's very difficult to find anything that pure here. You can't find food or water that pure down here. And then there's all this psychic energy that's sort of in the way. But all of that had to do with the way in which our bodies are affected by spiritual energy, by thoughts, by all of that. So it's really important to take care of your body. In the Christian scriptures, it says your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and so glorify God in your body. And there's a reason why the great monks and yogis and ascetics of all traditions around the world have disciplined themselves and cleaned up their lives. Brings me back to Ken Wilber's four main, I don't know what he calls them, I'll just call them 4 pillars of enlightenment. Wake up, first of all, but that's not enough. After we wake up, we have to grow up. It takes time for awakening to deepen and mature and grow. And then after we've awakened and we've grown up, we've got to clean up. And then we can show up. But it's very hard to show up if you're sick, or if you're weak, or your body is out of harmony with spirit. So that's a great question.
That is a great question.
You can overdo it, though. I did that because I was so devoted to the Taoist arts. I did Kung Fu and all these Qigong yogic exercises and Tai Chi Chuan. And as a young man, I was doing that 8 to 12 hours a day. I was constantly focused on the linkage between body and spiritual energy, which in itself was an amazing journey that helped me grow in so many ways. But I kept getting sick. And I learned finally that whatever you put your attention on will dominate you. So I was focused on the body, the body, the body. And I read the words of Christ that said, if your eye is single, your body will be filled with light. And one of my spiritual mentors said, stop focusing on your body and your infirmities and look up. Focus your attention on the light. And as soon as I did that, all that disease and discomfort left me. I stopped getting sick. I was so much more full of light than when I was doing all these physical things to try to fill my body with light. So things need to be in their proper priority. And so I would say spirit has priority over the body, because the body is not who you and what you really are. You're not the body, you're not the mind with all of its stories and experiences. You are the spirit that is experiencing that story and experiencing that body and expressing through it. But what you are is the eternal consciousness that has no beginning and has no end. So that being the eternal part of us, while it is important to deal with the mind, it's important to deal with the body, it's most important to stay focused on spirit.
And what happens when you stay focused on spirit in that way is that you realize that a lot of your food choices come from our emotional programs from our childhood, or a memory, or something that's soothing or comforting. And so we tend to eat what makes us feel good instead of what's good for us. And so when you get more focused on spirit, then you just more naturally want to put better things into your body, because spirit, it makes spirit feel good that we're healthy, and it makes all of the cells in our body feel good.
I love organic pea protein. It's a complete protein. It is 100% vegan. And if you get it organic from the right source, it's great stuff. I love it. Maybe it has a little chalky taste, powder. I just slug it down. But my friends who are still not vegetarian, and I'm not saying they need to be, when they taste pea protein, they go, ooh, yuck. I just want an ice cream milkshake. So yeah, I get it.
I get it.
But I also get what Suzanne said, that as my body and my being has become more and more clear, things that I didn't like before, I love now. I love some green vegetables I wouldn't touch as a kid. I can't get enough now. I love broccoli.
We actually watched a documentary about 5 months ago on Netflix. I think it's on YouTube also. It's called What the Health, Health. And after watching it a few times, actually, just to reiterate what it was saying and let it all sink in, I asked inside, I said, is this a good move for me? And this light just went on and permeated throughout my whole being. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And I was really surprised, but really I've been a vegetarian mostly since I was 19, but I would eat fish and seafood occasionally, and dairy, cheese, pizza, I mean, what's not to love? And gluten. I didn't think I had any problem with gluten at all. So when I decided to go vegan, in the first 2 weeks, I lost 12 pounds, and it was the belly fat that was stubborn, and that was a side effect I was not expecting at all. I just did it because it resonated with my being and my spirit. It felt like the right thing to do for me. And it's been about 5.5 months now, and I've lost 18 pounds, and that's without trying. But we've been doing it very, very intelligently. We've done a lot of research on it. We're making very nutrient-dense foods, you know, throwing flax seeds and all kinds of good stuff in our dishes that we make. But we've learned how to cook Mediterranean food and Thai food and all kinds of yummy stuff that we wouldn't have done. And I'm excited actually about eating and cooking. I wasn't much into food before then, and my appetite came up. My creativity for food came up. It's been a really fun journey. It's been really nice. We've been sharing it with a lot of our friends too.
It's all a matter of balance and finding your own balance, I think. You know, you also mentioned exercise, and I know in the monastic traditions, whether we're talking about Carmelite monks in the Catholic Church, or we're talking about Hindu or Buddhist or other traditions, when you give yourself to a lot of meditation and intense spiritual work, you can get into these dark places sometimes where you just feel overwhelmed. Maybe even depressed because you're not making progress, whatever, the dark night of the soul. And one of the answers is to stop sitting there so much, meditating, get out and move. Work in the garden, walk in the countryside, walk in nature. It works. And when I used to do these travel a lot and do eye meditations, where I was spending hours a day sitting in a very high state with my eyes wide open and just light pouring through me. The teacher that we were working with at the time said, you, not just Michael, all of you that are doing that kind of eye meditation with groups need to be doing cardiovascular exercise every day. Because if you keep just sitting in this high state and you don't keep your blood moving and your body and your lymph moving, you won't be well, and I'll have to take you out of that state, and you'll have to stop doing that. So,
great question.
It is. And Joanne says, I was recently in Vegas. As soon as I left, I felt different, better. Joanne says, you look great, Suzanne.
Oh, thanks. Feel great.
So, yeah, we don't feel good if we don't take care of ourselves for so many reasons. And I chuckle when you said when you left Vegas, you felt different, better. I used to really not like being in Vegas. And this is going to take me over to Morey's question, who's on Vimeo, because it sort of segues a little bit. I used to feel horrible when I went to Las Vegas. Now, I'm talking about 50 years ago. Vegas was a different place. It was very different, but we used to call it Sin City, and I mean there was some dark energy there. People with all kinds of addictions and lifestyles that were unhealthy. And, you know, of course, it's all around gambling. And I would just feel yucky when I was there because of stuff I didn't even know was going on. And I would feel great when I left. Okay, but as I grew more spiritually and my spirit became stronger, where how I feel is not as affected by what's going on around me, I started really enjoying going to Vegas. I don't know if that would be my choice to live there, although I know people that live there, and I know very spiritual people who live there, because to be in that environment, people that live there and work there and service the casino industry, they need to find meaning for their lives too. So there are all these spiritual seekers out there that are working by the thousands in the gambling industry, and they're seeking for deeper meaning. So it's actually a pretty cool place if you make the right connections. But I get that the external environment and what we're stewing in affects us. And Morey, a number of minutes ago, wrote, hello, I am regulating my contacts with information and social networks to reduce exposure, slow down, and protect myself from the things that are happening in the world. I wanted to know how you manage it. probably I should start by saying I don't think I do manage it. I don't manage the world. I don't manage the need to know in my heart what's going on. I do understand that can be really overwhelming, especially social media. There's so much. When I first got on the internet, I thought it was going to be the coolest thing since sliced bread. I won't tell you how many years ago that was, but it was decades ago, a couple decades ago. When the internet first started, I got on it. And I was so excited that this would be an opportunity to connect with people that shared common interests, at great distances. And I got on these chats and groups that were talking about spirituality, talking about awakening, talking about the divine. And they were horrible. They were horrible. I mean, you'd say something from your heart about, I don't know, anything that some breakthrough or insight you were having or chewing on, and people would just come in and attack and go, "You idiot, this spirituality is for the birds, and you're so dumb." And actually, they'd say much worse things. And I discovered immediately, as I'm sure everybody else knows, people will say things to you through email or on a chat that they would never say to you even on the telephone. There's a sense of immediacy on the telephone, but we're one step removed in digital.
And anonymous.
And anonymous. But even if you're not anonymous, I found people I knew would say things to me in an email or on the internet they'd never say sitting in front of me. Probably afraid I'd smack them, not really. But there's this unguardedness that happened with that sort of impersonal way of connecting. And social media can be too personal with the wrong people. So there are all kinds of reasons to minimize it. We use it, like Facebook has been just an awesome way for us to connect with thousands of people. I have just under 5,000 friends on Facebook, and they've got their friends. And so it's a great network, and almost all of my 5,000 friends are friends because of their common interest in spiritual growth and awakening. So, wow, and here we are streaming live on it. So I do see the downside, and I think we just need to find the balance within ourselves and notice that when we're getting drawn off center and the mind is becoming addicted to information
that's happening next
that isn't uplifting. At the same, but it depends. I mean, if I was a journalist, I would need to stay abreast of what was going on so that my journalism could be relevant. I'm not a journalist. I'm called to spiritual work. So I have to keep it balanced. And that's a really great question.
That is a great question.
And Morey also threw in, the body does its work alone. Only needs our love and compassion. Yeah, and some good building blocks, right? And take care of it. And then she wrote, quinoa is great, which I think is wonderful because you're sitting there in Colombia, Sudamerica, which is where quinoa's, Peru, Colombia, that area, the grain of the ancient Incas, which is wonderfully healthy, very high in protein, very unlike wheat. It has no gluten in it. It's good for you. And yes, we eat a lot of quinoa.
Makes really good tabbouleh too. Instead of using couscous, you just throw quinoa in. It's the same thing. Great for summertime too.
Maybe we should start a vegan food network or something.
Telling you, I've gotten so excited about cooking. It's really funny. Michael, we've been together 17 years, and he's like, I've never seen you like this. I'm having so much fun just being like, we were at a Thai restaurant and we ordered Penang curry, and then when I got home and looked up the recipe, there's fish paste in it and some other things that we didn't want, and so I just learned how to make it myself, and it's so easy once you get it down. You just throw it together, and after following a recipe once, I can just ad-lib. Hummus is super easy to make. But what I was going to say about that last thread, what was Morey's question?
About limiting, social media and information tech.
Yeah.
IT.
IT. About 20 years ago, I got fed up with the news. It was too much in the mind, too much grabbing your emotions. I found it very, very manipulative and frustrating, and I felt yucky after I would watch it. And so I just went to just reading the news. But even that, it's like, so I just set the intention that if there's something going on that I need to know about, I will hear about it. And
I will dare to tell you.
Yes, Michael will dare to tell me.
I can tell you there's a lot going on I have not told you. Yes.
But what happens now, I've had kind of this internal shift where things are filtered through my heart and not my mind and my fear and the need to control or manipulate anything. So when Michael tells me some news about the world, there's that first initial gut and mind and fear and crisis and conflict and confusion and chaos. And I just slip right into my heart because I recognize those feelings now as coming from the mind and from fear. And so I just slip into my heart, and if prayer is needed towards that situation, and then I give it up to God, and I just ask the divine to do what needs to be done in this situation. Because at the end of the day, us getting all involved in being caught up in the news, I'm not saying not being informed of what's going on, but at the end of the day, when we're getting caught up and it's affecting our ability to have peace, inner peace and love and compassion, then I feel like it's going in the wrong direction.
To which I have to respond. The solution to being disturbed by what we see out there is not to bury our heads in the sand like an ostrich. I'm not saying you're doing that. But it is to develop inner peace and an inner anchor in the presence so that we're not disturbed. So that we're looking at the world from the witness consciousness, which is, I don't have to fix it. There's nothing wrong with it, but I do need to see. So the thing is, if I'm looking at it through the eyes of the mind, the reactive mind with all of its programming and its emotions, and we've got to fix this, and oh my God, and up in arms and all that, we're going to be absolutely miserable. But the more we deepen our state of awareness, the more we see serenely, with tranquility and serenity, we see whatever is going on. And I don't mean that we do nothing, because as someone pointed out to me last week, someone I'm mentoring, all that's required for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Well, okay, but without getting in the argument of good and evil and all that, all that's necessary for the messy stuff that's going on in the world to get worse is for us to just look the other way and just not be involved. But we have to be involved from a place of clarity, truth, liberation, and inner peace. How do we cultivate inner peace? If we're looking at what's going on in the world, it's two totally different things. Cultivating inner peace is being okay with yourself and being grounded in pure awareness and the witness. Now, even there will be certain things that cross our screen that will grab our hearts and say, you need to be involved with that. You need to go pick up trash. You need to feed the poor, whatever. But there is something, I think, that is a deeper and more complete solution than not looking. But sometimes you gotta stop. You gotta stop. But to be able to look at the challenging, sometimes just horrible things that are happening in the world around us, and be at peace within. Not because that's okay,
right,
but because our being okay is because we are rooted in something that can never lose its peace, that is always love, always connection, always all right.
And if you think about it too, since we are a collective humanity, if the collective is hearing this news, this horrible news, and saying, oh, that's happening, that's how this is going to be, that's going to be that way, that's going to be that way, because we heard it on the news. We're actually sending our energy towards manifesting that. So to go within and develop that inner peace, that piece of it is actually more active than if you were actually being an activist, because it takes a lot to hold that space and to keep connecting with the presence.
Yes, now, because some people are called to be an activist.
Oh no,
Jesus was called to get himself crucified.
I'm trying to make a point that this is my form of activism.
Yes.
This is my form of activism, is like radical peace. It's like holding the space and seeing how I want the future to be. Seeing how, if it was in divine order, how we would all be one and working together to solve the problems that are on this planet. But we've got to have some of us that are anchoring that. And I just don't want that to be mistaken for passivity, because it's not. It's very, very, very active. I have to be very conscious of it all day long when I hear news, when I hear situations, when I hear, that's just my form of activism.
Okay. So, but see, I can't get the collective to agree with me. There will be no more wildfires in the West, unless, first of all, we acknowledge that there are wildfires burning. And I get the collective to use the positive side of manifestation to say no more to certain problems, or to say yes to sharing openly with the parts of the world that don't have enough food, don't have enough water. And if I don't stay up on it a little bit, I wouldn't even know how difficult the food issue is still in Africa, and other things we all know about already. We can use that collective to not just sit around and say, oh look, there's a war, isn't that terrible, but to say no more war. War cease, and send love and the light and the positive energy to it. So, but there are different sides to this, and
so what was the hornet's nest?
Saying that accomplishes more than activism, and there is enlightened activism. I know, because I've had this discussion going on with some of my people I'm mentoring as a spiritual teacher, that are passionately called to activism, political activism. Oh my God, you know. but it's authentic. You know, I'm thinking in one person in particular.
Right.
And so when I say, if I say, well, it would be better to just like detach and be in inner peace and beam that, they would go, absolutely not. If you do not, let's not bring that argument into the...
Oh, I'm not bringing that argument in. I think you're misunderstanding what I was saying.
Well, maybe. But the point is that some people do.
Right.
And the misunderstanding was generated by discussions we had in Satsang.
Right.
About the very thing we're talking about.
Right.
And some of the activists, and I know how... I'm not going to mention names, but I know how he would feel when he says, I just can't stand people saying just be in inner peace and hold space, when, you know, we need to rise up and give people the information they need that they're not getting, and say no to the things that are wrong, and actively empower the movements that are blah, blah, blah. There's a lot we can say to that. But again, that's why I said it depends on your calling to find the balance that works for you. Because we're not all called to do the same thing.
Right.
I'm certainly not called to that kind of political activism. And
well, Peace Pilgrim, when she went on her pilgrimage, she wasn't being an activist. She was just walking for peace. And it's a great book if you haven't read it. I'd highly recommend it. But that wasn't easy. And that was a call from within her to actively present peace in the world. And that's not passivism, that's not activism, it was just taking a stand from her heart. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay. And that passive non-activist spoke at the United Nations about nuclear war, spoke in hundreds of churches, walked through areas that were dangerous, even got beaten up for her commitment to peace.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
but
yeah, the activism, the point is that, as I said on Wednesday night, from a Taoist perspective, Action and stillness are the yin and the yang of one thing. Our activity and expression should come from a place of stillness, and our activity should always return to a place of peace and stillness. And there's a dance.
Great way to say it.
Okay.
Okay.
How about Gandhi's civil disobedience? Exactly. Yeah, I was going to pull the Gandhi card too. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, Gandhi's a great example, and he was a pacifist, but he was very much an activist. From the time he first started to stand up for people's rights and equality in South Africa, right to the moment that he was assassinated, he constantly did the hard thing and was coming from a place of inner peace and detachment. But yeah, great example of someone who had a very unique calling and found an amazing balance between his sainthood and his inner union with the divine and his inner peace. Because if he hadn't had all that, he couldn't have fasted in India and brought an end to the violence that was happening between religious factions that were at each other's throats. And they all loved Gandhi, whichever side they were on. He said, okay, y'all stop it or I'm not going to eat anymore. Which was radical action. And they weren't going to let Gandhi fast himself to death. So they stopped the fighting in the streets. It's love Gandhi. Okay. I think we need to, we went long.
We did.
Please close your eyes, open your hearts, and just invoke the presence who dwells within you as the center of your being. The very ground of your being is the presence itself. And as you go deep in the presence, you discover that it is your sacred, highest, true divine self. We are all manifestations of one presence, one consciousness, one being who loves us unconditionally. So open yourself to just drink in the presence that's being poured out to you from the center of your being, from above, from all around you. Oceans of grace and love and light are being poured out to you. Just soak in it, drink it in, and allow it to free you and transform you. Presence knows exactly what you need before you even ask. So just trust. There's nothing to do, nothing you need to ask for. You can ask. Awaken me, set me free, dissolve my suffering. You can do that. But the divine already knows and yearns deeply with unconditional love to free you, to awaken you, to transform you, to fill your life with joy and peace. Just allow it and receive. Now see us all sitting in a circle with our eyes shut. Lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward, and invite the presence to pour the flowering heart blessing through you to all the others in the circle. And know that they're inviting the divine to pour the blessing through them to you. Now you can relax your hands. Whenever you're ready, you could open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes all the time as we dive into the light meditation. Suzanne and I are flooded with oceans of grace and light and love for you. It flows through every pore of our being, but especially through our eyes, the doorways of the soul. Nothing for you to do, but just keep making eye contact, keep looking, and allow it. The light will shine out through our eyes, in through your eyes, into your spiritual heart, causing the light of divine consciousness, the flames of divine love to grow brighter and brighter within you. within us. Now keep meditating as long as it feels nice to you, which could just be forever. Or you could lie down nearby in Shavasana. That's lying on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with the palms open and turned upward. And just let yourself dissolve in gratitude in the presence. We love you very, very much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until we meet again, know that the divine within us beholds the divine within you, and we bow